Greetings, I'm the fastidious Criticaster, and today I'm gonna borrow an idea that I've seen in social media lately, where people have talked about artists and bands that are very important to them. So there has been this tag going on in social media that's called like 21 artists to get to know me. So where each individual picks artists or bands that are important to them and represent their taste in music. So that's what I'm gonna do here too. And by the way, this is not top 21 favorite bands or artists of all time, but these are just some of my favorite bands and artists. And I wanted to pick lots of different types of stuff because my taste in music is very diverse and eclectic. So I wanted to kind of, with this video, show different sides to my taste. But I think 21 bands and artists isn't enough because I like so many bands and artists. So even though I picked different stuff here, this doesn't really represent my whole taste. But I try to represent as much of my taste as possible here. But anyway, let's get into the artists and bands. I'm not going to talk about them that much. But of course, in the future, I want to talk about these artists and bands more in detail. So we are going to start with a couple of soul artists. So first we have the great Stevie Wonder, who I really love. And again, this is a representation of the soul side of my taste. So I love soul music, especially like soul music from the 70s, I think, and also from the 60s. And with Stevie Wonder, I love the five album run here from Music of My Mind to Songs in the Key of Life. And I have heard songs from some of his other albums as well, but I actually haven't listened to other albums by him. But these are just absolutely amazing, especially Inner Visions and Songs in the Key of Life. And what I like about Stevie is that in his music there's so much kind of beauty and emotion to it, but there's also lots of musical depth and nuance there because the instrumentals are all always great. Sometimes they can even be very complicated, and there is a sense of virtuosity there, which I like. But his songs are still like very accessible, even though there's lots of musical complexity and nuance there as well. And he of course mixes some different genres there as well. We have soul, we have some R&B, and even jazz fusion in some songs. And I love jazz fusion. Yeah, and I also love his vocals, his melodies. Like everything about these albums is great, and they still sound sonically like great and kind of timeless. Yeah, so many great songs in these albums, and these are just pretty much perfect albums, especially Inner Visions and Songs in the Key of Life. Key of Life. But yeah, if you somehow haven't listened to these like classic albums of Stevie Wonder, do yourself a favor and listen to them because they are some of the greatest albums of all time. And then another soul artist that I really love is Minnie Riperton, and she had one of the most beautiful voices in the world. And I especially love for many types of music like female vocals more than male vocals, even though like in the soul genre there are lots of great male vocalists as well. But I think there is something about like really beautiful female vocals that often connect with me more emotionally than male vocals. But that's just a generalization. It doesn't always work like that, by the way. So I want to make that clear. But these three albums, Come to My Garden, Perfect Angel, and Adventures in Paradise, are great. Come to My Garden, especially, is one of my absolute favorites. And these albums have really beautiful instrumentals as well. But I think the main highlight here is Minnie Riperton's insane range and her angelic voice. Yeah. And I could have chosen many other soul artists like Curtis Mayfield, Isaac Hayes, and many others, but I decided to go with Stevie Wonder and Minnie Riperton to represent my taste in soul. And then we have Cocteau Twins, and they might be my favorite band of all time. So of course I had to have them here. And I was just talking about great female vocals, but of course Elizabeth Fraser's vocals here are absolutely amazing. She is one of my favorite singers, maybe even my favorite singer. She has such a beautiful angelic voice, but she also has a great range. So she sings in many different ways in these albums. And I love dream pop. I love shoegaze. I also like again gothic stuff, post-punk stuff, ethereal wave stuff. So Cocteau Twins represents many different sides to my taste, but especially that dream pop side. Yeah. And dream pop is just one of those subgenres that are very important to me. Again, along with shoegaze, but I kind of lump them together because they give you a very similar emotion, I think. Cocteau Twins is an extremely consistent band. Like all of these albums here are great, and some of the EPs are great too. But absolutely beautiful music the Cocteau Twins made. Yeah. And then Björk represents my love of art pop. But of course, her music encompasses so many different genres from like trip hop, there is IDM, like lots of different types of electronic sounds, glitchy stuff, even some like rock and jazz type of things there. And also she represents that my love for beautiful female vocals that I just talked about. And she was a very important artist for me because she got me into art pop along with Kate Bush. I don't have Kate Bush on the list here, but I could have had her as I love her a lot. But I decided to go with Björk because she is one of my like top 10 artists and so many great albums. I think especially the run from debut to Medulla, that's absolutely insane. Like those are all like perfect albums. Yeah. And I love her willingness to experiment. I love her drive to always try something new and always try to reinvent herself. Like those are the type of qualities that I love about artists, whether in music or also in other art forms. So she represents that kind of side here as well of my taste and my philosophy in art and music, I guess. Yeah. Then we have Madonna because I love pop music. I love pop divas, and she is one of the queens. I could have also had Kylie Minogue here or even Janet Jackson because they are queens to me as well, but I decided to go with the queen of pop, Madonna. Yeah. I absolutely love her music. It brings me so much joy. Like especially albums like True Blue, Like a Prayer, which is my favorite, and it's one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time, and then Ray of Light. But many of these other albums here are really good too. Yeah. And there are still some that I need to listen to also. But she is also another artist that there are lots of different sides to her music. Of course, it's always pop music, but if you compare Like a Prayer to Ray of Light, production is very different, the vibe is very different. So her music, it isn't just amazing because it's fun pop music, but there is experimentation there as well, and she puts the boundaries of what pop music could be. But definitely, she gives me so much joy, and I love listening to her music. It's very important to me. Yeah. Then I wanted at least one artist to represent my love for singer and songwriter music. And singer-songwriter music was something that wasn't that easy to get into for me because I often gravitate towards more complex music, and singer-songwriter music is often, not always though, like very simple And I think I kind of have it backwards in my taste in the way that for me it's easier to get into complex music than simple music, even though I think for most people it's the other way around. But Elliott Smith is one of those artists that even though his music is fairly simple in terms of the music itself, I still really connect to his stuff due to the kind of emotion that he can present with his music. Like, of course, his music is very dark, but I love that about it. And his voice, I really love his voice, even though it's not technically amazing or anything, but it just connects with me a lot. And I especially love the records XO Figure 8 and From a Basement on the Hill because those albums have a bit more musical layers to them. Yeah, and there are so many very catchy songs there, so many beautiful songs, lots of great lyrics as well. So absolutely love Elliott Smith, and I have listened to him a lot. And he might be my favorite singer-songwriter, so that's why I put him here. But I could have gone with other singer-songwriters like Ichigo Aoba or Scott Walker or Nick Drake, for example. And then to represent my love of jazz, I put John Coltrane here, but I could have put his wife, Alice Coltrane here, or Charles Mingus, or Miles Davis, or Herbie Hancock, or Eric Dolphy, or many other artists here. But I think John Coltrane is pretty hard to beat. There are so many classic albums of his. I think he was one of the absolute greatest artists of the 20th century, and he explored so many different styles of jazz. I love the earlier stuff that's a bit more accessible, but I also love Supreme and Ascension, and even Interstellar Space and the crazy free jazz stuff of his last years. He was an incredible player, and his albums have other incredible players as well, and he is just maybe the goat of jazz, even though again there are many other great artist as well, and I think his wife, Alice Coltrane, is pretty much as good as John Coltrane, but absolutely love Coltrane. And then a modern jazz artist, we have Tigran Hamasyan, who is one of my absolute favorites, probably in my top 10 of all time. And the interesting thing about Tigran is how he mixes different things together. So there is this kind of avant-garde jazz side to him, post-pop side to him, but he also mixes like Armenian folk music elements to his stuff because his Armenian heritage is very important to him. And he is a virtuoso piano player, one of the best there is. He has an incredible sense of rhythm, but he also has interesting melodies in his stuff. And he's a jazz musician who was also influenced by metal music, especially I think Meshuggah. So you have those kind of metal type of rhythms, especially those Meshuggah type of like syncopated rhythms and polyrhythms there. But Tigran just plays them on a piano. Then he often has like drums there as well. And I love that type of stuff just on a piano without distortion. It works really well on piano as well. And yeah, absolutely love his stuff. And I love very complicated music, like rhythmically complicated or just complicated in general. I love listening to these virtuosos play because it's so awe-inspiring and it shows kind of the potential and capabilities of human beings. And it's just very enjoyable to listen to. That's of course the most important thing. But so many great records here, and I've loved every single one that I've listened to by him. Such a great artist. Yeah. Well, I just mentioned Meshuggah, but they are one of my favorite metal bands. And extreme metal is very important to me. It's one of my biggest loves in music. And it's the kind of genre, or metal is the genre that I know the most about and probably listen to the most throughout my life. And Meshuggah is one of my absolute favorite bands. Again, they are progressive metal band, and later on, of course, there was this term gent that was coined to represent those very low-tuned guitars, often extended range guitars like 7 and 8 string guitars, and those syncopated rhythms and stuff. And Meshuggah does that stuff uh, probably the best out of any band, and they were also the pioneers of that sound. But it doesn't always happen that the pioneers stay the best of the genre. But I think with Meshuggah, it has stayed that way. So many great albums. They are very consistent band. Again, I love the crazy, I like the rhythms, but I love the pounding, training, heaviness of the music. Thomas Haag's drumming is great. Frédéric Chopin's crazy solos, weird solos are amazing. And again, the rhythm guitars are great as well. Everything is great about Meshuggah. Absolutely love them. And then we have a band that was influenced by Meshuggah. It's Periphery. They're probably I mean, not probably, but they are my most listened to band. They are just one of my comfort bands that I can listen to, and I've listened to them again hundreds and hundreds of hours of their music. I never get tired of it, and I know their catalog inside out. But they are also gent, but they mix those Meshuggah gent riffs with also more melodic side, and they also add some electronic stuff to their music, and they have again screaming vocals, but also singing in there while Meshuggah is all screaming. And Periphery also has some lighter songs, like almost like pop songs. I mean, some of their songs are pop songs, but then they also have those crushingly heavy songs and also songs that are somewhere in between that mix those types of both things together. Yeah, and they are all great musicians, and Spencer is a great vocalist. So yeah, absolutely love Periphery. And then to represent my love of black metal, I have one of the classic second wave Norwegian bands, Emperor, and I'm also wearing a Emperor shirt. Yeah, absolutely love Emperor, and I love Ishan. Again, Ishan is an artist who also likes to try out different things. So if you listen to his solo career after Emperor, or even if you listen to Emperor's whole catalog front to back, you can see many different sides to his songwriting. And Emperor is one of those black metal bands where there is lots of musical nuance to it. So it's not just a couple of like minor chord riffs, but there's lots of complexity and nuance to the songwriting, which I like. And all their albums are great, but I think the first two are the ones that people should listen to in the Night Side Eclipse and Anthems to the Welking at Dusk. Yeah, incredible band, and I love black metal, even though I don't like the black metal community that much, and I don't like the politics surrounding black metal, but I love the music itself a lot. Yeah. Then we have a band called Opeth that is also in the conversation for being my favorite band, along with Cocteau Twins. Yeah. So Opeth has different types of periods to their music. They had this progressive death metal period where they mixed progressive music and acoustic folky sections with death metal and even some black metal influences. And then later on their career, they turned into a kind of prog rock pastiche band. But I like all sides of their music. But My Arms, Your Ears to Watershed is my favorite period. So from the third album until the Watershed, these are all like amazing albums between there. Yeah. And I love how seamless their songwriting is, that how they can so seamlessly jump from extremely beautiful folky acoustic sections to very heavy death metal stuff. And their death metal is also very interesting because there is always this progressive flair there. They use lots of like different types of chords and notes than many other death metal bands do. So they have a very signature style, and they've been also very influential to other bands. And the musicianship in Opeth, it has always been great, and Mikael's vocals are great, both his growls and his singing are some of my favorites. Yeah, no Opeth's music, I've listened to it so much, I've seen them live. I absolutely adore their music and it never gets old to me. So I absolutely love this band and their whole catalog basically. Yeah. Then we have the Smiths. So I also like lots of indie rock type of stuff. I like the jangle sound of the 80s. And the Smiths, I just gonna love all their albums, but especially the first three albums, Strange Ways, I also love a lot, but I feel like it hasn't kind of fully clicked with me yet, at least to the same degree as the other three. Yeah. But I absolutely love Morrissey's vocals. I love his weird lyrics. But I also love the Smiths in terms of the songwriting and the instrumentals, like, and the guitar playing is really fun and catchy. And their albums are just so consistent that it's a great song after a great song after a great song. And I know that Morrissey is an asshole and I don't really like him as a person, but I just love his music, especially here in the Smiths. But some of his like earlier solo stuff is pretty good too. But this is the stuff that I love and wanna listen to when I want to hear his voice and his lyrics. And the Queen is Dead even has my favorite song of all time. There is a light that never goes out. Their biggest song, I guess, but I just love that one a lot. But of course, there are many other songs as well. So yeah, I really love the Smiths. Then we have The Cure, one of my absolute favorite bands. I love both the early stuff, but I love most the stuff from like the mid to late 80s and early 90s when they added a bit more pop to their sound, but they still have that gothic and post-punk elements there as well. But so many killer albums, especially Pornography, The Head on the Door, Disintegration and Wish. Now both Disintegration and Wish are among my absolute favorite albums of all time in my like top 20 of all time. I love Robert Smith's vocals, lots of great lyrics as well. And I love how they build songs. Like they often have these long instrumental intros that can be very slow, but I love those build-ups that they do with their songs. I love the melodies. I love the dreaminess, the kind of hypnotic element to their music. I love the raw emotion that they have. I love the beauty that they have. And such an amazing band. I absolutely love them. And it's crazy how they are still going strong. Yeah. But actually, there are a couple albums that I haven't listened to. The ones that people don't really like. So Wild Mood Swings, the self-titled, and this one. I need to listen to them, and I've been meaning to listen to them, but I just haven't yet. And who knows, maybe I like them more than most people do. But yeah, I absolutely love The Cure, one of my like top 10, top 15 bands of all time. Then we have a couple of classical composers. I could have gone with many others as well, but I chose to go with Frédéric Chopin here because he was one of the first ones that I gravitated towards when I was starting to get interested in classical music. And Chopin is very easy to listen to because lots of his stuff is just very calm piano pieces, but there is also that virtuosic side there, even though lots of them are calmer. And it's just so pleasant to listen to. And I'm also just very thankful for Chopin's music because it got me interested in classical music and it opened that door that has been very special to me. Then we have Krzysztof Penderecki, who has become one of my absolute favorites. When last year I went through many of his recordings, but of course I had listened to and heard some of his stuff in like many films, and also I had listened to a little bit like randomly on YouTube and stuff. But last year I started to listen to him properly and just completely fell in love with his stuff. And he also kind of represents here my love for dissonant music because I absolutely love dissonant stuff because it sounds so eerie, anxious, dark, very scary, and I can relate to those types of emotions. So I understand dissonant and atonal stuff in a kind of a elemental, emotional way. It really connects with me because sometimes I feel like my emotions and what happens inside my head is very similar to that dissonant music. So I can connect to it in that way. I know many people can't really get into highly dissonant music and it's very understandable, but for me, it's just in some intuitive way, it makes sense in my head and I just love listening to it. And Penderecki's stuff is just the best example of dissonant music, I think. Like there are even some like jump scare moments in some of his works, like Utrencha, for example. Crazy, crazy stuff. And I feel like I'm gonna fall in love with Penderecki more and more as I listen to more of his stuff. But I could have also had like many other composers here, like Franz Schubert or Beethoven or Shostakovich. I love a lot. Tchaikovsky. And I'm currently getting into Olivier Messiaen. I've started to listen to recordings of his stuff and really loved it so far. So I feel like he's gonna become a new favorite. And of course, he's a bit comparable with to Penderecki as he's also another one of the bit crazier like 20th century composers. I could have gone with Stravinsky or Schoenberg as well, but yeah. Then I wanted to have something here to represent my love of Japanese music, so I decided to go with Kinoko Teikoku, this incredible indie rock dream pop shoegaze group that has now retired, but they were absolutely amazing. Like I said earlier, I love dream pop and shoegaze, but also like indie stuff. So this represents that here too. But they have lots of like really beautiful melodies in their music. Her vocals are beautiful, really great, amazing songwriting and great production as well. It's not full on shoegaze, it's more of that kind of dreamy indie rock, but then there are moments that sound very shoegaze, but I think the production is it doesn't have that wall of sound thing always that shoegaze often has. But highly recommend to people who love indie rock, dream pop and shoegaze, and I would especially recommend the first two albums, Utsuni Naru and Eureka. Those are the best, and then this EP, Long Goodbye, is also one of the best. Yeah. Then we have Françoise Hardy, one of my absolute favorite artists. Absolutely love her voice, love many of her albums. The arrangements, the instrumentals in her albums are great. And I also think that French language is one of the best languages for music because it sounds so beautiful, especially when the singer has a great voice. And of course, French language sounds so beautiful even spoken, but when it's sang, it elevates the beauty even more. I would highly recommend this one, Commentary Adieu, one of her best albums, and then La Question is absolutely amazing. And I want to highlight La Question here because one thing that I couldn't fit into this list was my love for Brazilian music. But La Question, like the music, like the arrangements and like some of the playing is by Tuca, who was from Brazil. So this has a very Brazilian sound to it, this album. So this kind of represents here also my love for Brazilian music, even though the album itself is performed by a French artist, Françoise Hardy, but there is that Brazilian songwriting there and some instrumentals and arrangements. Yeah. And then some of her best songs come from this album, Message Personnel. So the title track that's in the end, and then the first song Premiere in Contré. Amazing stuff. But yeah, what an artist. Absolutely love her music. Yeah. Then we have Danny Brown to represent my love of hip hop. He is one of my, if not my favorite rapper. I love his crazy voice. He has a great flow, and his albums always have incredible and often very forward-thinking production as well. So I recommend like Atrocity Exhibition, also his collab with with JPEG Mafia, Scaring the House, and then this mixtape, Triple X. I absolutely love that one. Yeah, but I could have also had many other rap artists or rap groups like Outkast, The Roots, Kendrick Lamar, Ghostface Killah. So many artists that I could have had here, but I had Danny Brown to represent my love of hip hop. And I love all types of hip hop. Of course, this is a bit more of that experimental stuff, but I love jazz rap, boom bap. I love lots of the classic stuff, but I also love newer stuff. So yeah. Then I wanted something here to represent my love of post-hardcore. Although State Falls is also like screamo and post-hardcore, but this is also meant to represent my love for many things that grew out of punk. So whether we're talking about hardcore punk, again post-hardcore, grindcore, metalcore, I love those types of genres a lot. Power violence, emo violence, yeah. But State Falls, like they mix like different tones together really well. So their music sounds very harsh and dirty, but also like very beautiful at the same time because there are so many beautiful melodies there with the guitars. Also, the drumming is absolutely amazing. So tasteful, lots of great feels there that add so much to the songs. I love the vocals as well. But my favorite albums are Resonate, Desperate, that's my favorite one, but I also love Children of the Moon, that's a beautiful one too. But yeah, great band and very underrated and unknown band, unfortunately. Then, last but not least, we have Converge to also showcase my love of metalcore. And they have that kind of madcore element in some of their albums as well. Very consistent band, very harsh sounding, very heavy band, but that's the stuff that I love. So consistent, like all of the albums I have heard are at least like 4 out of 5. The only ones I haven't heard is the first one, Halo in a Haystack, and then this one, this one, sorry, Deeper the Wound. And they have a new album coming this week, so looking forward to listening to that. But the drumming by Ben Coller, he's one of my favorite drummers, so great. But the vocals by Jacob Bannon are great. Kurt Ballous, guitars are great, and of course his like production stuff, and that's great too. What a great band, yeah. But anyway, that's it. Again, I could have gone with many other artists and bands, like I gave quite a lot of shout outs during this video to other bands and artists as well. But these are some bands and artists that are very important to me and that represent many different sides to my music taste, but not all the different sides to my music taste. And feel free to make a response if you also have a channel. And also let me know in the comments what you think of any of these artists or bands, or what are the artists and bands that you could share so that we could get to know you. But anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, fastidious Criticaster signing off. Yeah, I need to come up with a better outro. Yeah.
And she's gone, and she's gone, summer's gone. Come to my garden, let the stars fill your eyes. Come to my garden and walk with me. Singing on the fever street, down to love of all the bungalow. Minus in heaven or Las Vegas. Stay down.
Haven't laughed this hard in a long time. I better stop now before I start crying.
The verbal folklore been explored and employed by none other than them foes with the gold.